What up, guys? In this video, I want to talk about something that I think is a hot topic in society, and that's hookup culture, or like sexual freedom. And I want to explain how this movement actually backfired. And I'm not necessarily saying that I got the answer for what we should do. Maybe I'll try to give like some practical advice, maybe one piece at the end of this video. But what I want to, how I believe it went wrong is that I think a lot of people thought, okay, this like feminists pushing for sexual freedom of women, stop slut shaming. I mean, I'm not saying that we should do that, but stopping the shaming women for being promiscuous, or even men. I think a lot of people thought, okay, this is going to lead to more sex, right? It's going to be like, okay, men want it, women want it, okay, we're all going to get together, there's going to be more dating, we're going to be able to meet more partners, we're going to have this great time. But I don't think that's what happened. I think the opposite happened. And this is why the opposite happened, is that women are actually afraid of men trying to have sex with them on a first date. I believe that is actually the bottom line. The very large majority of women are afraid that a man's going to try to have sex with them on the first date. And the problem with that is that there's really no explicit way to tell the woman, okay, I'm not going to try to have sex with you on the first date. Because you can't explicitly text them and say, look, I'm not trying to have sex with you on the first date, because they're going to be like, that's kind of weird. So it gets very tricky to even imply that you're not going to do it. So this actually made women afraid to show up on dates with men. So now on that end, we have less women that want to show up on a date, right? Okay, now we're gonna go to the other end of this story, and that's men. I believe this actually, hookup culture, or even the idea, actually made men less likely to want to commit to a woman. It made us less likely to want to put our time and money in, less trustworthy of her. So we're actually less vulnerable to a woman. We're actually more disgusted with women because of this, because of the idea of hookup culture. Because why would any man want to commit to a woman who's been sleeping around? Most men are not okay with that. I believe there's a lot of men lying about it, saying, oh, we're okay with women having high body count. But most men, I just believe, are not okay with it. So a lot of men are now being very selective on who they want to date, because they're afraid of that person having a body count, and they're afraid that woman has been sleeping around. And so it effed it up both ways. Now men are hesitant to commit, and women don't want to show up on the date because they're afraid the man is just going to try to have sex with them, or they're afraid the man's just going to try to use them just for sex. So it's effing up both ways. And now I want to talk about another element that I believe is huge. So I believe that one of the biggest problems affecting dating today is not even necessarily morality, but it's risk aversion. People like us, younger generation, we didn't grow up really talking to people. During COVID, we spent like days alone. We're just on social media. So right there you have anxiety, to show up and talk to people. So this generation is going to be incredibly risk averse. So if a woman, even if she wants to have sex with a man on a first date, that idea is probably so anxiety producing for her that she's not going to show up. She will not show up most of the time, bro. And I believe this is a big reason why so there's so many flaking and ghosting on dating apps, and people hear about it all the time. Oh, I was about to go out with her and then she just unmatched me. Oh, she said that she was going to show up, she canceled last minute. you know, and guys are probably doing it too, because of the discomfort, the anxiety to show up and meet somebody in person. And I feel like dating apps is just an irony. It's ironic because you have a bunch of people that are online expecting other people to meet with them in person, when it's like these people don't even regularly meet other people in person. They're not even dating people, meeting people and going on dates in person. So why would you think that we would all be online and actually show up to a date? Because most of this generation is anxious. You know, they're risk averse. They don't want to sit through the discomfort of meeting somebody, okay? So, and then if you add sex on top of that, the woman likely not showing up. That's why, if you've been flaked on, that's probably why. You know, I think a lot of dating coaches will try to say, oh, it's about how good of a texter you are. And yeah, I get, okay, there's, you know, yeah, how good looking you are, okay, your career, okay, I get that. But I think a lot of the flaking and the lack of commitment or showing up to a date actually is risk aversion. They don't want to sit through the anxiety. All right. So then another big part of this is that if you add in the, you know, Me Too movement, I don't know what I'm allowed to say on this video with that not getting flagged or whatever. But if you add that into it as well, what makes you think that a woman will want to show up on a date and have sex if she's constantly has images in her mind of sexual assault because of the movement? I'm not saying that the Me Too movement is bad. I'm just saying that why would we actually expect to push hookup culture and sexual freedom at the same time as the Me Too movement is happening? It's just going to cause a bunch of anxiety in women. They're not going to want to show up and think that you're going to try to have sex with them on the first date. So they're not going to show up. You know, and even if you're a good guy, like, you can try to portray it, but like I'm saying that you're a good guy, but like I'm saying that they might always think in the back of the head, well, I don't know if he's a good guy, you know? So this hookup culture just really messed up everything for everyone. You know, if there was less sex going on and we socialize more, then I feel like women would actually show up on the date more often. I believe that's why it's really hard these days, you know, even for dudes who, you know, are doing fine, and you know, because I don't know, like, risk aversion is huge. Like, I'll explain to you, you know, one situation of how I met this girl and how she took like 5 risks for me. I counted this, you know, up. 5 risks for me, and now we know each other. She doesn't live in my city, so we're not gonna like date, but I met her actually walking on the street. She had like a bag, like a paper bag from a coffee shop that I like, so I started talking to her about it. Then I told her that I was going to the mini mart to get some Mexican Coca-Colas, the ones in the glass, and then I asked her to come, and she said yes. And then we walked the block. I couldn't even find it. My phone was dead. She stayed with me. We went in, finally found the mini mart. We went in, got the Coca-Cola. She drank it. So she took 5 risks for me. The first one was stopping to talk to me. The second one was walking the block to meet me, or to find the mini mart. The third one was entering into the mini mart that she didn't even know of. The fourth one was drinking the drink that I bought. And I think the fifth one was that we ended up going on a date to the coffee shop like 2 days later. So this type of thing, this might be another separate video, but I want to make a point that if you're not getting that many dates, it's not necessarily because you're not attractive or that you don't have enough to offer. It's just that the women are not taking enough risk. Like, that woman took a lot of risk, and now I know her. And even the last girl that I was dating for like 3 months, she took a risk on me. We met in a grocery store, and we met like the next day, and went on a date. So it's not necessarily that you're not attractive. It's just that a lot of modern women are so averse to risk that they will not show up. They will not turn social media relationship into an actual physical connection. So yeah, as far as hookup culture goes, I think that it effing backfired. And yeah, the leftist, or I guess you could say like woke movement, I think they kind of touch a lot on like, I feel like they see, sex only as a pleasurable thing, but what they're not talking about is the anxiety that goes into it. They're not talking about that, and I just wish that they would. Like, they're not explaining actually how, for men and women, it's an anxiety producing like, I guess, occurrence to meet somebody, go to their house, take off your clothes, like be naked, and that's, I know that sounds like graphic, but they're not talking about the anxiety portion of it. So, they want to say, oh, sexual freedom, this and that and that and that, but it's not necessarily freedom if it actually made people not want to participate, because it's too anxiety producing for them to even want to participate. Which is why, for example, even when people say, oh, college kids are having sex and stuff, but there's alcohol involved almost every time. So, like, okay, are women really, having sex on the first day, blah, 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 if alcohol is not involved? I don't know. If you beg to differ, okay, drop me whatever comment. And I know there are women who are online looking for that, but I feel like that's a minority. You're finding those, I don't know, it's not, I don't think it's the norm. So another problem I feel like, with hookup culture is actually leading people, I feel like, to pursue unnatural, like, relationship dynamics. Like, for example, there's some people that actually do end up getting, hooked on the kind of like bad dude, or like kind of bad girl or bad boy, like, just because they're so used to being like purely sexual and going for someone that doesn't really have a lot of empathy, but is just more like sexual, you know what I'm saying? And then so you have people doing that, which is quite unnatural, because it's not, you can't have a partner like that can parent your children well. And then on the flip side, you have people that are going the totally opposite way, and you see this with these like really attractive women with these kind of overweight dad bod, kind of nerdy dudes who really appear like they have no game at all. And I feel like this is also like a coping mechanism. It's like, women were hurt at some point in the hookup culture, or they judge men that are good looking, so they go like to be players, so they're going after these dudes who are, overweight and not athletic and not really confident. They're just kind of nerdy and pay the bills. And this is also wrong too, because unless they're actually into that person, but I feel like a lot of the time it's some sort of coping mechanism. It's like they're choosing someone that they're not attracted to because they feel that person will be a good parent to their child, to their children. And so I think this is all being caused by hookup culture, because like I'm saying, some people are actually do become addicted to it, or they start, if they do a few hookups, if they are somebody who is comfortable enough to go that route, or even end up in a sexual relationship with someone who's not as healthy mentally, they end up addicted to that type of non-empathetic, just highly sexual dude. And then, like I'm saying, on the flip side, you have people going after, specifically women, going after men who are really don't have that many markers for being attractive, like traditionally. And I feel like that's wrong, because it's supposed to be balanced. A woman's supposed to go after a masculine man, who is also would be a good father. But I feel like the hookup culture is getting in the way of that, so people are going to one end of the spectrum or the other, and both of it is wrong, So yeah, I feel like that's another problem. But I'm not drinking a beer. It's a Coca-Cola. I love these like half liters Mexican Coke. These are just fire. Heck of sugar, but another thing I feel like it did is that because there's so much like pressure for people to allow women to do anything, is that it made it so that fathers are afraid to discipline their daughters and actually teach them how to pick a good man. Because back in the day, a father would say, hey, I don't want you wearing that, it's showing too much skin, go back inside and put on something else. Or hey, I don't want you dating those guys, that type of guy. I want you dating a more marriage-oriented type of guy. But I think these days, fathers, don't want to be canceled because of cancel culture. So because of the sexual freedom movement, it's actually leading to daughters not having discernment of how to pick a right guy, and they don't have respect, and they don't have discipline, and they just are overly entitled because their father didn't put any sort of control on them, so then you have women running rampant, just like dating whoever, and it's not good. And then obviously these women will get even more damaged, and men too, we get even more damaged along the way, and then these damaged people damage other people, and then we just have a whole cluster F of a problem. So yeah, because like if you ever meet a woman who just doesn't really act right, she's just kind of bitchy or entitled, it's like, where did that come from? That's the biggest question. I think part of it is poor parenting. Their fathers didn't tell them to not be arrogant. Their fathers didn't tell them, sexual freedom does not mean that you can think you're better than other people just because you're hot. So these women just entitled and arrogant, and then just go off the rails dating bad dudes, and then husbands have to deal with it. Husbands have to deal with their past emotional baggage, and it's like, what man will want to do that? So yeah, I think that hookup culture is bad. The feminists, I feel like, just don't get it right. Like they try to say things like shame and sexual repression is the only reason why women don't act more sexual, and this is just a lie. It's like, no, it's like they just naturally don't want to connect with a man sexually as much as men want to do it. Like if women really wanted to have sex that much, now at this point, like, all of our body counts would be like 10,000, literally, because women don't think like men. They don't. Like, it's not about sexual repression. Like, we're at a point in society where women are not really as sexually repressed, and still we don't see them out having as much sex as a man would want to. So it's obviously that this is just not how they act, and this is a lot of the time why men will lie to women and tell the woman that they love them and stuff just to get sex, because women often do require love, or at least what they think is love, for it to happen. Otherwise, the man wouldn't have to lie in the first place. So women are not like men in the way that they have sex. Yeah, we don't see happening what the feminists thought. I think the feminists thought, okay, everybody's gonna have sex now that there's, you know, less repression, but of women. But no, it's not what's happening at all. It's not what's happening. If that were the case, it would be incredibly easy for men to have sex. Like I'm saying, men would be literally like 20,000 body count by now. But no, that didn't happen. But yeah, I just want to say, like, you know, for everybody who's like not getting as much dates as you would hope, you know, even if you're more attractive, like you have everything together, and then you're still getting people flaking and stuff like that, I would say, like, obviously, yeah, we can continue to improve, you know, that's what like this channel is about, but like we're not in the same times as we used to be. This isn't like, you know, multiple decades ago, or like when our parents, or I mean, I don't know how old anybody is in this channel, but like in like the 60s, like for example, if you watch like movies from the 60s, like a dude with a car could just pull over if there was a girl walking and just ask if she wants a ride, and she would just get in, you know, that type of thing. Or hitchhiking was popular, and like, you know, this wasn't seen as like a murder, like a way to get murdered, you know. I'm saying, like, people don't trust each other as much as we used to. So I think just the idea of connecting with somebody and getting a date is a lot harder than it was in prior decades. And then you add, you know, the feminism movement, like women trying to be independent and things like that, and it just gets a lot harder. And it's crazy because, like, I've seen how times have changed, you know, like I'm in my late 20s, and I've seen how, like, back in the day, you know, in like major cities, I don't know how, maybe how it is in your city, but like if you wanted a public restroom, you didn't necessarily have to be like a customer. You could just walk in and just ask, and they would be like, oh, it's back there, blah, blah, blah. They would let you know where it was. But these days, even as in many major cities, it's like, at least in the West, it seems that even if you're a customer, they won't even let you use the restroom. They lie. They say the restroom's broken, you know, or whatever, because too many people have done drugs in it, or whatever, and it's just, there's just not the trust and openness to strangers anymore, or even just people in general. Or, you know, I remember back then, like, if you needed a phone, like, you could ask, you know, you could ask people for a phone and they would let you do it. But these days it's like, you know what I'm saying, they probably think you're gonna steal their phone. Or you know what else is crazy is, I remember back right when like Facebook got popular, or maybe it was even on MySpace too, like young women would put, a lot of the time you could go to their page and it would say exactly where they worked. Like if they worked at, like, you know, McDonald's or whatever, it would be like, works at McDonald's, works, I don't know if it would say the location, but it said where you lived, so it was likely you could go and, like, you know, you knew exactly where they worked, like if it was right near their area, or like it would say their work location. And it's like, you know, it just shows people trusted each other more back then. And I'm not saying that that was a good thing that people were posting that. It was probably kind of dangerous, but, you know, to look back and think, you know, people trusted each other more back then, and it's not the same anymore. And, you know, I think that's a big reason why, yeah, hookup culture, the idea of hookup culture will fail. It actually backfires, and at least that's the way I see it, because people struggle to connect in general. So why would people be thinking that everybody's actually going to get more sex when less people are even socializing to even create the grounds for that to happen? But yeah, I think, I don't know, I can't really be the change of it. I don't know, but I guess if I have a daughter or kids, I want to raise them right, you know, like raise them to be relationship oriented, and be sociable, and yeah, and I mean, ultimately, I don't even agree with like hookup culture. I think that, like I'm saying, it makes men not want to invest in women because we don't trust who that woman is. But I think it wasn't as good back when, fathers um, like decided kind of what man could date their daughter. It wasn't necessarily good, but it seems like it was actually better than now. You know, like maybe the the women had less freedom over who they could date, but it seemed like the benefit was actually that the women felt safer because the dad was there to be involved in the whatever boys came to her house to pick her up. The brothers were involved, so whatever man whoever man dated her, you know they had a little bit of fear in them because the father and the brothers were all involved. So I think a lot of the feminists will be like, we don't want someone to control us, but it's like, yeah, well, you don't feel safe anymore to date, so it's like, well, maybe it would be better if there was a man there actually involved. But yeah, I think I start having these conversations and just thinking about it. I struggle to give some practical advice on it, but yeah, maybe be a little bit sociable and try to invite people to hang out in person, so we can actually help people feel connected and not like distrust each other. But just just a few last thoughts. This video is getting so long, and I'm filming in so many different locations, just adding more and more thoughts. But just a few last thoughts. Is that, I mean, if hooking up does affect pair bonding, especially with women, like, it's terrible. Like it goes back to one of my original points in this video. Like, how could we, as a man, would we even want to trust a woman if we don't think that she can pair bond, or if that she doesn't know about loyalty, or about staying in a long-term committed relationship. And another thing is, like, it almost seems like the way that our attraction works has actually began to flip in the opposite direction. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Is like, it seemed like it used to be in prior decades, like, about showing the person how special they were, but now it's become the opposite, where people are trying to attract others by showing how much they don't care about that other person. It's like, I'm not gonna text you for 3 days so that you can feel that I'm more valuable than you. I'm not gonna spend money on you so that I don't look like a simp. And, like, what I'm saying, it seemed like it's gone the other way, where it's all about whoever can show that they don't need another partner, that they don't need anyone, is more attractive. And I think that this mindset is actually really, like, started to become a thing. And I feel like that's actually, another thing that's discouraging people from actually going on dates, is that they want to look like they are more valuable than other people. So, like, they make you chase and make you try to prove that you're more valuable than them, rather than just go off compatibility. Like, what's wrong with just being compatible? Like, I was talking with someone recently who's a little bit older, and they were saying they're like in their late 60s, and they were telling me, like, back in their time, when you went to propose to a woman, it wasn't about, like, surprising her. It wasn't about, like, excuse me, I stutter sometimes. It wasn't about, like, a gotcha moment. It wasn't like, you didn't see it coming, didn't you? You didn't think I was gonna propose, did you? Like, it wasn't about that back in the day. You just went out and you just asked them to marry you. It wasn't this big production and all about, like, trying to make the other person think that you didn't care enough to ask them to marry you, so they're surprised. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like, I mean, I get it, the surprises and, like, anxiety does take a portion of attraction, but I feel like it's gone so far in the other way, because people are just so desensitized that they can only be attracted to someone who doesn't care about them, you know. And yeah, and I mean, and obviously just so many other things like pregnancy. I mean, really, what man will want to date a single mom? Like, that's never our preference. And like, this stuff is just gonna create generational problems, like unplanned pregnancies and yeah. I don't know, this video was all over the place, but I sometimes use my YouTube channel just as a way to record my thoughts, and I hope everybody's okay with this, how erratic this video was, just jumping around. But yeah, I think that, you know, dating in a way should be like, you know, you go for marriage, date for marriage, and if you do end up ending the relationship, you end it with as the least amount of emotional damage that you can possibly take, and the most positive, you know, at the same, like, leaving with the most positive that you can, and actually feel energized to go into your next relationship, not feel bitter, nothing like that. But yeah, that's the problem, I think, is that this world is moving so quick that people don't want to spend the time to invest in one person. And yeah, like I'm saying the whole time, the risk aversion thing, you know, like, I don't think people go on dates anymore to find out if they like the other person. I think people have become so risk averse, they'll only show up on the date if they already know 100% they like them. So yeah, that's causing another problems. But alright, take care though.